Hello, my name is Anders and I'm a cyclist. I've been riding bikes for 24 years, mostly leisure but also commuting to work. You can notice while riding a bike that it sort of puts a strain on your thighs and ass. This is especially uncomfortable on a racer bike. That is why I tried something new, a new kind of bike. I'm sitting on a bike right now. It's called a recumbent bike and it doesn't strain your ass or your thighs. The first thing you notice about a recumbent bike is that you're sort of lying down. Your pedals are high up and it's a more comfortable riding position. I've noticed this alleviates the stress on your thighs and on your ass. I think it has something to do with the development of muscles, I guess. When you're walking, the ground isn't moving underneath you, but when you're on a normal bike, then both your body and the pedal moves. So it becomes a weirder situation for your body. Here, your back is against the rest, and the burn on your thighs feels more like being at the gym. It's a much more a nicer feel. When I bought the bike, I hadn't tried it. I'd only seen a video on YouTube, and it sort of looked easy enough to use. I was surprised at how difficult it was to learn, but you can do it. It takes 2 or 3 days and then you'll be up and running. The first thing you notice is that there's a front wheel drive. Most recumbent bikes have back wheel drive with a long chain, and the technology is more complicated. This has a front wheel drive and a pivot steering, which means that the whole front half of the bike will pivot to the sides when you steer. That's why the video is looking so weird. There's a rubber piece in the front that makes steering more reliable. It stretches out, and the farther you come from the center, the harder it becomes to steer. Pivot steering has its pros and cons. Of course, you can ride the bike without holding the handlebars because you're basically always steering with your legs. But it's very difficult to learn at first. And I'm no expert, I've just been riding for 2 months. I would compare pivot steering to pedaling a kayak. Every time you push yourself forward, you adjust your course a little bit. And as you learn to paddle, you do automatic adjustments while paddling. The same thing happens with this pivot steered recumbent bike. Every time you push yourself forward, you adjust your course a little bit, and the action of steering your bike gets fused with propelling yourself forward. This is an amazing feeling, and it can't be compared to riding a normal bike. It just isn't, because there you have the propulsion system and the steering system as separate activities, and when these blend together, the feeling is just awesome. It gets more intuitive, and I'm really looking forward to mastering this biking technique. I remember when I sort of got the hang of it on the 3rd day of training, that it felt like grabbing for the direction which I wanted to go. If I wanted to go right, I sort of reached out my right leg in that direction, and of course the front of the bike pivot that way, and that's where I went. The shifters work well. There's Deore shifters both front and rear, but the biggest problem is that the crank is adjustable and you have to set it at an appropriate distance from your seat based on your height. And when you do this, the chain will get loose if you pull it forward towards yourself, and you have to, of course, cut the chain and do all the appropriate adjustments. And I'm not an expert, so it has been sort of a struggle. The brakes and tires work really well. I was surprised because it was such a cheap bike. I was expecting more of a stingy manufacturer, but I got Continental Touring tires and really powerful V-brakes, so I can't complain about that. The seat is just amazing, and I got the Ventimat accessory for free because my bike wasn't fully assembled when I got it in the mail, but I do believe that it's necessary. It breathes well. Of course you get quite warm on your back, but as you can see, I'm dressed for leisure. This isn't a bike that demands much of you, and you won't get sweaty even if you're riding 25 kilometers an hour. The suspension is sort of original. There's a rubber pad in the back and it compresses and gives you a dampening. I think this mostly makes sure the tires don't break as easily. The frame is made out of steel and it's unnecessarily durable and of course heavy. The bike weighs about 18 or 19 kilos, which is not that much, but it's kind of cumbersome to lift and navigate. This is an amazingly easy bike to transport with a car. All you do is you pull a pin out in the middle of the bike and then it just collapses into two halves. You can fit it into any smaller car and you won't have a problem with it. It's really convenient. The nice thing about sitting up when you ride a bike is that you're in touch with your surroundings in a totally different way. It's much easier for you to see things while passing, and you can even look up at the sky with no problem. Another cool thing about this recumbent is that you don't have any metal in front of you. If you have your steering wheel in front of you like this, it sort of feels like you're inside of a machine, but this is just sitting on top, going forward at your leisure. I have fallen over once with the bike, and I was maybe going 30 kilometers an hour, and it was one of the most comfortable falls of my lifetime. The first thing that happened was the handlebar took most of the impact, and since I only have half an ass, it puts me in a great position on this seat because the seat shielded me from the pavement as it struck the bike. The only thing that happened was I got some bruises on my hand, nothing else on ass or leg or anything.